We are recording. Welcome everyone to what are we, Chef? So week 4 starting live. It's not only gone by sort of quickly, but it's been an interesting week. Plus, I just spent an hour talking to myself on my last live session. So
yeah, that's always great, I bet. Well, we have lovely students in ours. So
yes, we do. I'm gonna make sure you're pinned and I'm pinned. There we go.
So we were talking about bread yesterday, just the start of bread, and I feel like I jam-packed that hour in with information. So if you have questions about all that stuff we talked about, let's hear it, because it was a lot of information, but it was really just the surface of getting into bread baking. But it's just sort of the basics of it. So we'll start with that. Does anybody have questions about the bread stuff we talked about? Oh, Chad, you don't like baking? Or do you mean that you have no hate for baking? What do you mean in your chat, in your message?
I don't like baking.
Oh, well.
So I took culinary school, not the baking.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people either really like it or don't like it. It's a different kind of skill set for sure. I think a different temperament a lot of times in the kitchen. I think I was saying this yesterday when we were talking about bread baking.
Yes.
You know, it's like a whole different thing. So on the line, it's hot and it's fast paced, and that's cool. It's fun to do that. But also you might not want to do that. And if you're in the bake side, it's still hot often, but it's slower paced for sure. And it's just a very different environment. So I think it's important to know kind of where you want to be and what kind of environment you want to work in. And there's lots of options for sure in food. So it's definitely a different style. And you don't have to love it for sure. Not everybody has to love everything, but it is a good idea to know the basics, I will say, of baking, even if you don't want to do it, because let's say you run a place. This happened to me actually on my very first job. I was working in the pastry side, of which I really didn't know that much about pastry. I went to culinary school. So I was like, why am I in pastry? And they put me in pastry. And the souffles they were known for souffles. It was this fine dining restaurant where everything had to be absolutely perfect. And they were really well known for their chocolate souffles. And I was the only one in pastry. None of them were working. Well, no, I would say 30% of the souffles were working and all the rest were failing miserably. And I was freaking out. And so I had one by one, people would come over from the line and try to help. They're like, what's going on? And everybody would come over and try to help and try to do one. And they just kept failing and failing and failing. I can't even remember what the cause was now. But then finally, I mean, the sous, it went like an order, right? The line cooks came, then the sous chef came, then the head chef came. And he was really mad because we were really behind and things weren't working and nobody could fix it. And he was really, really mad. But he tried it and it didn't work for him either. So it's good to know how to do basic pastry stuff and basic baking things, because you never know, even if you're on the line side or you are one day in charge as the head chef, you will have to step in and help out. So basic stuff is good. Yes, Thomas, did you have a question or a thought? You're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I watched the class and it was a lot, and I was just enthralled by every second of it, because I'm going to be a baker one day.
Yeah,
that's my goal. And probably my externship in Atlanta is going to be H&F Bread, and there's a guy named Rob Alexander who actually has a James Beard Award for baking.
Nice.
And
That'll be a great internship, externship, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, but he's and I have we have buttermilk kitchen too, but and he's just a nice guy. But the question I had is, I'm confused about the assignments this week, because it's got the flatbread and it's got the gluten-free.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to do both of them?
No, you just have to do one. So you
Okay.
can pick either one. Yeah.
Well, I went and got gluten-free flour, and I know I told you I would never make gluten-free anything, but it would be interesting assignment. So I think I'm gonna do both if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great because again, you never know where that's going to come in. And more and more people are requesting that. So it's great to have that option, or at least have that skill set, or have some experience with that skill set, because you really don't know when that could come in handy.
Well, most restaurants I know, especially the pizza places, they buy the gluten-free crust as opposed to
Hmm.
making crust, and then they'll do the cauliflower crust too.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I've never seen anyone make a gluten-free pizza dough. They usually get it from Restaurant Depot.
I need to dig out because I made a recipe video when I had the bakery. I made a bunch of recipe videos just for like my Instagram. And one of them was me making pizza dough. And I will have to find it, and I will share it with you guys if I can find it. It was years ago, and I don't have it, but I'm sure the person, like my son, did all my editing and stuff, so he might have it still. So I will dig it out. But it's very different. It's very wet. It's very loose. It doesn't hold together. You have to be gentle with it. But once you get the hang of it, it'll make sense. It's like
Well,
a batter, not a
yeah.
dough.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why most people don't make it. It's just not something pizziolas do. They want to
Yeah.
play with dough.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally. I will say though, I go to Italy often because I'm Italian, and you would not think, that's the land of pizza where it was first made. And you can go all over the place, and most of them will make their in-house own versions of like bread rolls and pizza, and they don't think anything of it. It's not like you're the odd man out because you're asking for it, and they hand make it. They're not ordering it from like we do here. We get these handmade, or these already pre-made crusts. But it's very different, but they do a really good job. I've taken a couple of classes when I've gone to Italy from chefs there, who teach me how to make gluten-free stuff, gluten-free pasta, gluten-free bread, and it's super fun. If you ever go, you should take a class. But
well, it
yeah.
definitely would be a skill set to add to my arsenal because I regret saying I would never make gluten because I feel I offended you.
You didn't offend me. I don't mind at all. That's the least offense. I mean, like, you got to have a hard to get in this industry, and that did not offend me at all. I have heard a lot
Well,
of terrible things about stuff, and that is
well,
not one
you
of
know how vegans are,
them.
and you're not a vegan, but they can get
No.
offended very easily.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say, I mean, yeah, no, you can, but
But we
I
have
was not offended.
I'm very lucky. We have two of the biggest Italian restaurant makers in Atlanta,
Mm.
Antico Pizza, and then his protege went and started his own thing called Veroni Napoli, and all of this stuff. And I worked for him for 2 years for Antico, which is Gio De Palma, and everything's imported from Italy. He's from Connecticut, but his mother's from Italy. But
Hmm.
they are said to be the best pizza in the Southeast.
Cool.
And it's really depending on what style you're looking for, because it is true Italian pizza, but then I'm more of a New York pizza person. So I like it.
Well, I mean, there are lots of flatbreads and there are lots of pizzas. And there are lots of pizzas within different regions, just like we have lots of kind of styles of pizza. We were talking about Chicago before we started, and they have obviously have a Chicago style pizza, a New York style pizza. There's lots of styles of pizza, which is fun. And
No,
especially for this week, I mean, once you understand sort of how it's done, then you can alter it and make it whatever you're wanting. So it's super fun.
Southerners don't have the patience for Chicago because it takes 45 minutes. But our big thing right now is Detroit, which
Mm,
is simply amazing, and
yeah.
it's very different pizza.
What is a Detroit pizza?
It's a lighter dough, but it's made in an oil pan.
Yeah.
And what you do is you do the dough, you stretch it out, you do the sauce. Actually, you do the cheese all the way to the edge of the pan, and it makes a seal. But then you put the sauce on top in dollops.
Huh,
And it's the biggest thing in Atlanta right now. I mean, we have
cool.
one called Old Fourth Ward Pizza. They make a grandma pie, and it's like the second coming of food.
I'll have to look at it. What's it called? I'm gonna write it down.
Detroit Pizza, Old Fourth Ward, grandma pie.
Okay, I'll look it up. It sounds like Sicilian pizza, to be honest with you.
It is, but it's the method, because if you go to Food Wishes, he does a recipe that really just mirrors what Anthony does.
Cool.
Food Wishes is amazing on YouTube.
He is great. Has anybody else looked up at Food Wishes? That's a really great, I think, place to go for recipes, and he's good at describing things and easy to understand. He's really great. Chad, you saw what on Food Network last week? The Detroit pizza?
Yeah, I was on one of those shows like that Drives, Dives, and whatever with Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
They're doing the Detroit pizza, and it's just like he explained it with all the way up to the edges.
Was he in Detroit?
No,
It's on a contest.
but it forms a seal, because what happens is the cheese melts down into the edges and it makes it crunchy. So, but you make it in an oil pan, like a flat, or you can make it on a square pan, but they use oil pans.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. But it's interesting. All right, I'm trying to look at this. George, did you have a question about the assignment, or did you get it answered from Chef Stewart? You said you just had a question also about the assignments. All right.
I answered it, but I don't know if I answered it correctly.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I didn't see the answer. You can. And Candy, Food Wishes is it just foodwishes.com? I can't. If you put in Food Wishes in like recipe in the Google search engine, you'll find it.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. So I don't know if he has a site with the recipes. I don't know. We can look it up though. It's a guy who's just films bunches of recipes, but he's not. I like him because he really just concentrates on the food. It's not all about him. Sometimes when
he's very dry and to the point, kind of sarcastic, but then he has the best tips. He'll tell you what he did wrong or the best way to do something. He's got a blog spot, but most of his stuff is on YouTube. That's where they make their money. Yeah. But another one I recommend is Preppy Kitchen.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
He's amazing.
Yeah, well, for baked stuff, he does it. I've only looked at, does he even do culinary stuff, or does he only do baked stuff?
He does.
I just have seen, he's really good too. I was just reading this thing from Chad. You got a big old Pro mixer, KitchenAid Pro mixer, like 8-quart, like what size?
Yeah, it's one of those, why don't you lift the bowl up and it kind of lifts up into place and it mixes, so.
Like a Hobart.
It's I don't know. They'll expect.
Those big Hobarts for pizza.
Yeah.
No, it ain't that big. I used to wear where a body would fit into a mixer. No, it's not that big.
Thomas, you've got a 40-quart stand mixer at home on your floor?
No, but I've worked with the big steam kettle at Antico because they make a lot of. No, I have a cheap KitchenAid that shakes to death.
Yeah. I actually just finally sold my last KitchenAid mixer. I kept one from the bakery forever and ever. And then I was like, why am I hauling this thing around when I moved? And I just sold it. So it was kind of sad. I was like, there goes my mixer.
Well, that was like my last 40-inch TV. I said, I'm not moving this thing again. I have to strap it in the front seat belt.
Yeah. It's all good. Well, does anybody want to talk about the bread or questions about any of the assignments? I mean, I'm happy to chat, but I mean, we are, in study hall, so I don't know if anybody has questions in particular. I mean, we covered a lot of stuff yesterday, but we didn't really talk about other parts, which we will talk about next week of bread baking. Like we didn't talk about autolyze, or we didn't really talk that much about proofing because we don't do a lot. The flatbread is pretty quick and easy. It's a really great introduction to, a yeast bread without getting uber complicated. So we didn't really talk, and we'll talk more about those things next week, but I didn't know if anybody had questions about any of the stages, or if you feel comfortable doing what you're going to do. Actually, the other thing I did want to talk about too, if no one does have anything, or you can think about it and let me know. We didn't talk about how to measure eggs, I don't think, because I've seen some issues in the assignments. And so can we just take a minute and talk about how to weigh eggs properly?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so for instance, one of the recipes, I don't remember which one now, called for 3 ounces of egg. So a normal large egg is about 2 ounces. They're all a real natural product, so they're not all going to be 2 ounces. But you need 3 ounces. So you can't just jump into eggs, because then now you have 4 ounces, which will throw off your recipe. So what do you do? Does anybody know how to do that? Want to share how to do it? I'm sure that some of you may know. Anybody? What's your best guess then? You don't have to. Oh, Chad, yeah, you got it. You got it.
Well, what you do is you convert it to where you can measure it out, and then you like whip the egg or scramble it, and then you pour the remainder in there to get 30 grams.
Correct. So you can just, it's going to be 1 egg at least, right? So you can just put in 1 bowl the 1 egg, but also you could just put 2 eggs in a bowl, mix it up, and then put your other bowl on the scale and then pour in until you get 3 ounces. So yeah, good, very good. Thomas. Oh, you have it. Yeah. So that's an important lesson. And I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but I noticed that people were putting too much egg in their stuff. So we were getting some results that were not that wonderful with that. So I wanted to just make it.
There was a lot of moist, quick bread over overly wet.
Jeanette, you can use liquid egg. That's true. And that's easy because it's basically the same thing we're talking about. They're just mixed up eggs and put it in a carton. So it's the same thing as being able to measure that out for sure. All right.
I was just going to reiterate what you and I said yesterday, Chef, that one, again, you do either of the flatbreads, the chef was saying earlier, one or the other. You're welcome to do both. I've had a few boths come in, so that's not a problem. It's about the dough. It's about the bread more than it is about the toppings. You can choose any topping you would like to put on, as we mentioned yesterday, but it's not really pizza. It's a flatbread, and it's really about learning how to work with yeast and do this straight mixing method to make the actual flatbread. So be very, less is more. Be very cautious what you do. And then, as we also mentioned, literally, 8 to 10 minutes. It's like an 8-minute cook for this. So for the yeasted, the regular flatbread, make sure that whatever you do use on topping is either going to cook in that short amount of time, or you par cooked it or cooked it ahead of time. Like we talked about onions. Don't put raw onions on there necessarily unless that's what you're going for, raw, because they will not cook, or they will burn and they will not cook. It's a very hot oven, 450 to 500 degree oven. So the gluten-free, you do par bake the actual dough. And you will need to do that. It won't work if you kind of don't par bake that, then put the toppings on. Tomas has a question.
I used to work at a restaurant, and it was an Italian restaurant, and they made these loaves of bread, and I think they're called peasant bread. So I looked it up, and I think it said no knead bread. How is that different from what we're doing?
Well, a no knead, so peasant bread is just a style of like the formation of it, but it's a lean dough bread. Like we're making lean doughs this week and next week. But a no knead bread is this sort of new kind of concept, and you still need it, but just not for a long time. The idea is that you use a lot of hydration in your formula. So when you talk about baking, again, we call them formulas. And one of the great things about formulas is that they're all broken into ratios and percentages. We haven't talked a lot about it because it's really, if you're into baking, you'll need to learn about formulas, but at this stage, not necessarily. But you can see the hydration level. So one thing that really alters one bread from another is how much water, in most cases, is added to the dough. So when you have a no-knead bread, they add a lot more hydration, sometimes like 80% hydration, which is a high hydration for a bread. And what they're doing is they make it in bulk, they leave it in the refrigerator, and by adding all that water, gluten is activated and already starts to form on its own by getting wet. So that's why you autolyze, which is, we haven't talked about this step, one of the steps, which is basically wetting your flour. And when you wet your flour, it starts to activate the gluten and get it going for you so that you need less later. So if you have a higher hydration flour in these recipes, these no-knead recipes, they're a little more difficult to work with because they're higher hydration. But the idea is that you're doing some of it now, and then you can take out a little bit. Every time I've seen these no-knead doughs, it's like you're supposed to just take out a little bit the next day, and you can make off what you need, bake it off each day. And it's like you can leave it in the fridge for 5 days. And then every day you could just take out, a certain portion and knead it for maybe 5 minutes. And then voila, you're ready to go. The idea is that you don't do that mixing stage that we talked about, which includes kneading. You're not kneading. The having the higher hydration is helping with that. So there is a little kneading in the no kneading dough, but that's what they mean. It's like, it is a lot faster, and I have made those many times trying them out, and I think they work really well, actually. So you should give it a whirl.
I looked up the Detroit thing. They said that it's about 70% hydration, so it's a pretty wet dough.
Yeah.
But it absorbs all the oil from the cheese and everything, so it makes a nice crispy edge. That's the key to it.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, the bread, it was rectangular, and we would cut it and serve it with, olive oil and vinegar and pepper, and it made the greatest sandwiches too, because I would take leftovers home and throw some cheese on it.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it was simple, which is what
I
think was the key there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like every culture has kind of a peasant bread, what they call like a peasant bread, which is just, very basic, bread. It could be even similar to the French bread, just a basic baguette. It's just made in a different shape. But usually the peasant breads that I've seen, that they're an Italian one. I think you're saying you're in an Italian place. They start with a biga, which is, we haven't really talked about, but is a pre-fermented little bit of dough. And you add that pre-fermented little bit of dough into your new batch. And that adds a whole bunch of flavor and structure to the new batch, like the young dough. It's called, a young dough doesn't have very much fermentation, and so it's lacking the flavor and the body that an older dough has. But
so like sourdough.
Yeah, like all the cultures have different names for these pre-ferments. Italians call it a biga. Sometimes you'll hear poolish. That's the same kind of thing. What am I forgetting, Chef? What are the other pre-ferment terms? Sourdough starter.
Right. Poolish is French, I remember.
So I can't remember what the other ones are called, but they all have a name. But it's all the same idea, that you're doing this pre-fermenting smaller amount and adding it to your new batch. Yeah. It's delicious though.
Yes, and sometimes are very sourdough based, where you really have to feed them and work on them for a period of time. And some are just something you would do for that particular batch. Poolish is are just, you do it overnight and then you use that in or a day or two and use that in the dough the next day and stuff.
You always take a piece of the old, like you always save a piece from the day, stick it away, and then you use that the next day. Does that make sense? In your next batch. So you always sort of have your own little starter going from the bread that you're making each day, which is very clever. And, you know, I think the bread bakers of the past were very clever in figuring out bread and how to make it all. And I think it's fascinating.
Two ingredients or three ingredients. It's pretty amazing. Chef, I'll give you the link. I'm sending out tomorrow when you get my Friday, hi, welcome to Friday, do your work emails. I'm actually, I taught with this gentleman at California Culinary Academy when I was teaching brick and mortar in San Francisco, and he and I have stayed good friends. Peter Reinhardt, who Chef probably knows, is a master bread baker and has a billion books, and James Beard award-winning baker and bread, and he's done a number of TED Talks, and I'm giving the link to one of the TED Talks that he does about. He's a former monk. Brother Juniper.
He's a very pleasant person.
He is, like, he's like, he's roly-poly awesome. I mean, he's amazing. He's an amazing guy. But he compares bread, what happens with bread with what happens in life. So he's very spiritual about his bread baking, amongst other things. And this TED Talk is pretty awesome. And then Thomas, if you can't get enough information from Chef Kelly or any of you about starters and pre-ferments and artisan baking, go to Peter's books. His stuff is amazing. He's got some.
I would in no way put myself in the same category as Peter Reinhardt when talking about bread. He is the man about bread. Like, he is fantastic. It's so nice that he's just a lovely person too. It's just an added bonus, you know.
Yeah. And if you'll see him on video, he's pretty cool. But in person, he's, like I said, we've kept friends. The funny part is his original award-winning book called Crust and Crumb was basically his artisan bread baking class from California Culinary Academy.
Was it?
Yeah, he just wrote it into the book. That's exactly what his 12-week artisan bread class was, which I've sat in on and done with him and stuff. And so I've baked with him. He's pretty cool. But I just wanted to bring that up because we're getting into baguettes next week, and so I say this incorrectly, but it's into real breads. I mean, you know, baguettes is a technique that will take you a lot of time to master, but you'll get some good results after day one too.
I will say though, one of my mentors, her name is Janice, and she is like a master French bread maker. I always love to watch her. You know, she's just really good at it, and she keeps trying to make it super easy. You know, it's like, Kelly, now this is easy. You've got this. You know, she's like the best person. She's like one of my best friends now. And she was like one of my first chefs, and she learned from oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Talking about all these master chefs, Jacques Pepin.
Oh, wow.
So her mentor was Jacques Pepin, and I'm always just, and his style of making things super easy, like when he teaches and breaking it down, that is exactly sort of how she teaches, and I love that style, and I always try to emulate her because she's so great at teaching. So hopefully I will do her justice with French bread. Yes, Thomas.
I would say the same thing about Gordon Ramsay. His videos are amazing. Can I go back to last week with biscuits? I have a question.
Yeah, biscuit away.
I was watching the Hardee's biscuit championships, and to me, Hardee's makes the best biscuits. They're amazing. But I noticed two things, because they actually showed, I love watching videos and kind of like leeching off of them. But they basically start with like a Bisquick mix and just add buttermilk. So
it's a self-rising flour.
So their factory mixes it all up. So is Bisquick just basically flour and butter or shortening that's been reconstituted?
I don't know what's in Bisquick, to be honest with you. But you know, there's a very easy biscuit recipe that is similar. That is just when I'm super not feeling like making anything, and you can make a biscuit really simple. You use white lily, because we didn't talk a lot about white lily flour, but white lily flour is the, the supreme biscuit flour in the South. And they have a self-rising flour. And on the back of their bag is the best recipe for a biscuit. It is a cream biscuit, and it's literally heavy cream and their self-rising flour mixed together, formed into a biscuit and baked. Simple as can be.
And white lily is a soft wheat, which I just read, which means it's less protein, less gluten. So it's more like a pastry flour. So what you're saying is, I'm looking at self-rising is what I should be looking for in that.
Yeah, I think that they're using a self-rising flour probably.
But another thing, and the guy that won, he's from Virginia Beach or somewhere, and they had this rolling pin with these rings on it. So basically, and this is really great for volume baking, you basically get the same, same amount of biscuit every time, because it's got the rolling rings on the edge, and you just roll it out.
Yes. Those are great for people too when you're learning. If there are lots of kinds of rolling pins, and people will get sort of a favorite. They're the rolling pins that have the little handles on the side, and then the middle rolls around. Then there's just one huge rolling pin without handles on the side. Then there's rolling pins that taper towards the end. Those are French rolling pins. And then, yes, there are these rolling pins that have the little rings that go around the end. And usually you can add different size ones. They're in like different millimeter sizes, so that you can always get the same, or get the desired thickness without measuring it, with a measuring utensil like a ruler or something. And they're really great. I had one of those for years. I thought it was a good teaching thing, because it's hard to know what is an eighth of an inch, what is a quarter of an inch, and so you could just put these little rings on there and roll it out, and you would know exactly what you had. So it's great.
And it's consistency. You want consistency in your restaurant. So
yes, for sure. Although I would say the biscuit maker that is at Sunrise Biscuits, that is this really great biscuit maker. She's been making biscuits, I swear, for 50 years. And she sits in their little tiny window and makes biscuits, and she does everything without anything, no measurements, no nothing. The woman's just like a machine. She just stands there for hours and makes these beautiful biscuits that are the best biscuits ever. Well, so I think once you get the hang of it, you get the hang of it. But definitely,
I was watching Scott Peacock, and he doesn't weigh his stuff. He just sifts it and like scoops it and does it. And I'm sure he's got like muscle memory about what feels like what. And and most people develop that. I mean, anytime you do something over and over, you're going to get very good at it.
Yes, for sure. And they understand what the feeling should be, and they've done it so many times, they can tell if it's too much or too little. But yeah. That was it for your biscuits? Yeah, I would try those. I mean, you're not going to get that flaky biscuit, but you're going to get a really lovely biscuit with just cream and self-rising flour.
Well, I
didn't think it would work, actually. The first time I saw that, I was like, what is this ridiculous recipe? So I'm going to try it. So I did, and I was just like, man, this is like the best thing ever. So yeah, I really like it.
Well, one more question. Do people fold their dough several times, or do they just roll it out? What's the
you fold it if you want those layered ones. That method that I sent out in last week's email on Friday or Monday, or I can't remember what day. That is the method that I, after many attempts, figured worked almost every time for people when they're trying to learn, and for me, and I fold it 5 times.
But what I did.
I don't always fold it into a letter, though. The 3 folds. Sometimes I just fold it in half.
Well, I saw a guy yesterday. He just cut it in 4s and stacked them.
Yeah. But you don't want to cut it when you don't have to cut it. So
well, he's making square biscuits too. But the Jonathan guy, I can't think of his video. But I didn't know if I did 5 times, and mine were extremely flaky.
Yeah.
And with,
Yeah.
and with you, chef,
you're
I book fold mine like from the puff pastry making days
Yeah.
of doing
Yeah.
stuff. I was gonna chime in one little thing, for the, I know we're talking about baking here, but self-rising flour. When I used to do a lot of batters, whether it's tempura styles or things like that, or even just a la anglaise, where it's just flour as a coating of something, we use self-rising flour. You get this light, fluffy, nicer consistency for batters and for coatings if you use self-rising. It's got the baking powder already in there. It's got things in there that it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
So I never thought I'd ever use self-rising flour, and then somebody sort of taught me that trick, and we started to use it, and it was like, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
coatings
I
are
feel like
lighter.
I feel like sometimes professional chefs kind of poo-poo the self-raising
It's-
flour.
My French
yeah.
my Italian background poo-pooed it, and then I'm like, wow,
Yeah. And then I was like, wait, this is pretty great for something. So yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I'm with you,
But
and I'm
I
with
don't
you.
know that I've used it for tempura. That's a great little tip. Thank you.
It does. No, it does work well. And I'm with you. I go to Italy every now and then, and so I'm sorry. There's only one pizza. It's the Neapolitan. Sorry.
Napoli.
Last time I was in Naples and Rome, you gotta have Neapolitan pizza.
And margarita, Neapolitan margarita.
Yeah.
Exactly, the real way.
Yeah. Yeah. Arturio, do you have a question or a thought?
I have a question for the pizza. Are we supposed to, not for the pizza, for the when we're mixing the ingredients, does salt kill yeast or does yeast kill salt?
Salt can kill yeast, and there's a lot of people who kind of freak
Wow.
out about putting them in together. But yeah, I've never had that really kill my yeast. You always add salt to dough because if you forget to add the salt to dough, it will not be good. It will, well, there are Italian breads in this. Have you ever had the Italian bread, chef, that has no salt in it? That's in Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it has no salt is because they serve that bread with the saltiest condiments. You know, all of the charcuterie is up there. But you need salt in bread, I think, even with the charcuterie. I need salt in my bread. Yes. So technically it does, but I mean, I can't imagine not having it in there. Yes. Did you have another thought?
Yes, one more. I want to see if this is like going really good. 1 second.
What's happening? Oh, are you showing us? Are you cooking?
Yes.
Sweet.
Is it
Oh, look
supposed
at
to be
that.
This is my first time ever making it.
Cool.
I went to Lowe's to buy some
Oh, there it
bricks
is.
because over the weekend I'm gonna make a brick oven. I want to see if I'm doing it right. The texture is really nice.
Yeah, look at that. It's looking good.
Thank you.
Are you gonna get did you have a pizza stone or something?
Yes.
Okay, so are you gonna put it on that in the future?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
It'll
mix the
be-
Mexican. I'm trying to mix the Mexican and Italian because my friend's
Okay.
Italian, so I'm trying to mix two ingredients together.
Show me your pizza again. So you
It's
got
fresh. It's fresh buffalo mozzarella. I did home.
Uh-huh.
He did homemade Italian sausage with thick cut maple bacon. I smoked it last night.
Oh my gosh. That's gonna be delicious. So that buffalo mozzarella will not probably spread out a lot like, you know, the melty mozzarella of the shredded stuff that we find here. That'll be really delicious on there. I love all your ingredients and your toppings. And your dough is looking pretty darn good. Nice and light. It had some air in it, I could see, in that little part that you lifted up.
Mm-hmm.
Looking
Yeah,
good.
I left it overnight in the fridge, let it chill. Someone told me to do that. Let it sit for 8 hours to 6 hours. I was like, okay. So I got home at 1 in the morning from working, and that's how I mostly do my cooking because in California it's really really hot right now, and so that's how I did it. I let it sit in the fridge overnight, let it rest to get to room temperature, and then I use one of the tools with the hose to go quick instead of using the fork method.
Sure.
So
The
I
docking,
wanted
the
to
little
just see if
docking
I'm doing it
tool.
right.
Yeah,
This
you're
is-
on the right. Yeah, that looks
this-
really good. You got it. The reason I was asking because your pizza was kind of hanging over the edge of your sheet, and I didn't know if you're going to use that other one, the pizza.
Oh no, That pizza is my my tester to see what I'm looking for to get a flavor.
Yeah.
Here's the tools that I'm using.
Yeah. So that's a docking tool.
And then this.
That's great. Nice. Great. You're set. And you're building a pizza oven?
Yes, over the weekend I'm building it for my sister for a brick oven pizza. I put it on one of my comments on my notes for my assignment for this week. I just wanted to see what's the difference between oven and wood fire.
I want to see what your experiment is next week. Next week, can you come to study hall and share pictures of what you built and the test? I want to see your tests. I love that kind of stuff. Super fun.
I was thinking of like flatbread. So I went to go buy a chicken, and my other class before this, we had to butcher a chicken. So I just butchered the whole chicken, and I just got wings to make with the fat bread.
All right, cool. Yeah, next week.
Have you decided on wood yet? Which wood you are?
Wood, use Japanese wood or Japanese briquettes or like something that's hardwood, not softwood. I don't know yet. I'm just still learning. I got into cooking school due to COVID. I used to work for UPS delivery from age of 18 to 27. So I did my union time already.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you're embracing it for sure. I'm excited to see next week. That'll be cool.
Thank you so much, Chef.
Thomas, did you have something?
Yeah, I was to say Arturo, you know, that Antico here, they use wood in a brick oven and they use hickory.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you so much. Now I know what to buy now.
Hickory, pecan, those kind of things.
It kind of depends. It kind of depends where you're at. I had a wood burning oven in my restaurant up in Portland, Oregon, and alder is huge up there. So we had alder, and then we have a lot of fruit trees, like you were saying, Thomas. We had apples and pears and some nut trees like hazelnut and stuff. So very regional.
What's a good wood, if I may ask, instead of using a Japanese briquette?
Yeah, just use wood.
Just use wood instead of charcoal?
Because is it going to be a round oven?
Top? No, it's going to be with cinder bricks. So so I'm going to use that, try to make that. I have it all mapped out on my tablet, and I got the okay go on my sister's property to do it. So that's it.
That should work. I'd like to see that because
I'll send you a picture of it, how it looks.
Because we do the half domes here, they just build the wood in the corner and it gets like really high. And then I got an uni oven too. So at the same time, it's like I can't cheat. I can't use tools to cheat. So yeah.
There's no cheating. You still have to make the dough.
I'll give you the secret for dough though. Malt. Malt.
But my favorite pizza is Napoleon. So I want to learn how to master that.
I was gonna make a comment about docking. If you're doing Sicilian, you know, the thick square pizza, you really have to dock that, or it's just gonna explode everywhere. But if you're doing, and I learned this recently, if you're doing a really, really thin pizza, like thin crust, do not dock it because it just falls apart.
Yeah, and they'll all go through the middle or like through the hole because it's so thin. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Those are good tips.
Oh, you're welcome.
Cool.
I was gonna say something and then I just totally forgot about the.
It'll come to you 5 minutes after we stop, I'm sure.
Yeah, somebody said something that made me spark something, and then I should have written it down.
Anybody else out there have anything else they would like to? You can see we go slightly all over, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. For the if you want to make real Neapolitan pizza, you have to get the real Neapolitan flour. That's like, you just have to get it. Because so much of that pizza is the flavor of where it's from. And so you can order it on Amazon. I've ordered it on Amazon. There's a couple different kinds. Oh, why am I drawing a blank? One starts with a C. Oh,
Caputo.
Oh, Caputo. Yeah, that's the one that I was using, and it turned out really well. So start with that flour, because that will make a big difference.
It-
Their
it's
water
called-
makes a big difference too, but
Yeah.
we're
It's
here.
called 00. And
Yeah.
what I was hinting at earlier is I used to manage a pizza place in the 80s, and our secret ingredient was malt, powdered malt in the dough. And it gave it kind of that little dryness. But one day the owner stopped putting it in there, and I go, "What's up with this dough?" He goes, he goes, "I didn't think anybody would notice." And I go, "I noticed."
That's funny.
Mm.
Yeah. Arturo, so you have another thought, or are you just showing? Oh, you got Caputo. Sweet. I can't see what it is. I just see, oh, is that, oh man, it's so small. Talk or something so it gets bigger.
100% Italian Seco, dry. Yep.
Italiano dry yeast. I
Oh,
use that
there it
instead.
is. Lord,
I use
thought
that
that's-
instead of the yeast that I got from the school. I gave that away. I gave all that stuff away. I had all this ingredients already.
Was that,
Like
what
the-
kind of yeast is it? Active yeast?
It's dry yeast, not active.
Well, there's either active or instant both of those are dry.
It just says 100%. It doesn't say active.
Well, it's probably active then.
Look at the directions; it'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it says
See if it
long
says-
fermenting power, easy to use and store. Yeah. See,
Does it say to
dissolves in-
hydrate it in water?
Yes,
Then it's
dissolved
active.
in water.
It's active
Yeah, so
yeast.
that's active yeast.
But it says it's made in Italy though.
Really good active yeast, but. And remember, that's a good point, not just what they made in Italy, but we were talking yesterday, your recipe has, you got instant in your kit, which is, as Chef said yesterday, is the strongest of all the yeast, and it does not need, it's got dead yeast cells in there already. It doesn't need to be hydrated in water beforehand. You can put it in with the dry ingredients. The active dry yeast, like Arturo has, or if you do that, you need more of, and your recipe tells you how much more, gives you the exact quantity of active. So use that additional quantity, and then you need to hydrate that in water before it goes in with the rest of the dough.
Can you taste the difference in different yeast? Is it discernible?
Well, I mean, that's like when you think about when you buy sourdough bread from San Francisco and it has that distinctive flavor, because, there's yeast. Yes, I think you can. My answer is yes, I think you can, because it's coming from somewhere and you can taste where food is from, I think, when you really get particular. But
Yes.
I think for these main, everybody here uses like one or two of the red yeast, or, what are the big guys
It's
that,
Fleischmann.
Fleischmann's and stuff.
yeah, so, yeah, I think maybe you'll get your favorite, but.
To branch out from that, so in cooking somewhat like Chef was talking about, I'm a distiller. And if you are, I'm not a home distiller, a professional one, but if you home brew or if you distill, we use particular yeast from particular, whether it's a champagne or a type of brewer's yeast, or the formula is not necessarily proprietary, but they're very particular because you will get different flavors from different yeasts. And again, since we're talking about other stuff, I don't know if anyone's bourbon fans out there. Bourbon. If anyone knows Four Roses bourbon, they have 10 mash bill recipes, and it comes because of the different levels of what's in the mash bill to make the alcohol. The other thing is they have 4 or 5 different yeast strains, so they match a yeast strain to a particular bill to make a particular product, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yes, in outside of Fleischmann's and Red Label, yeast makes a big flavor difference.
How do
Yeah.
you perpetuate a yeast strain?
They grow them in the laboratory.
Oh, so they just multiply.
Yep.
Yeah, they
It's
feed
living.
them sugar.
It's a fungus.
Well, that's
Yeah.
no, they're pooping stuff. So there you go.
Yeast is a fungus.
Yeah, I mean, they eat simple starches. You just got to feed them, and keep them in an environment where they can grow. Can't be too hot or you'll kill them off. Too cold, they'll go, they just go sort of in hibernation. So you just got to understand how they live and Make it the
Yeah.
best little yeast
But-
world for them.
But if you have them in a culture, they just multiply.
Yeah, as long as you keep it at the proper temperature and they have food.
Well, I guess how you keep your sourdough starter, you just kind of keep it in a jar somewhere.
It would be fascinating to see how they do it in a big commercial setting, though. I think that would be really interesting. Maybe they have one of those on one of those TV shows, how it's made. We,
I'll look
we
it up
can
later.
look it up and see.
In the professional distiller classes that I have taken and I've worked with, they do bring a yeast guy in. So if you want, I'll make a phone call and here's how we cultivate yeast.
Yeah, it'd be cool to understand how you make it. I mean, I always like understanding how things are made. I don't even care if I'm ever going to use them. I like to understand how things are made. So I'd be curious.
Well, there's a
That's the
market too. You can make a premium yeast or just one that you market to death and make people think it's like Patron, which is not the greatest tequila. It's just marketing.
There you go. Next job. Making what do we call it? High-end yeast.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple here. They make 1821 bitters, and they just made that in their kitchen, and I think it's national now.
Yeah, cool. I love those stories. Those
Yeah,
are
I'm
fun.
not gonna do the bitters. I mean the yeast. That's for someone else.
Yeah, there's lots of ideas floating around you could do. All right. Well, I mean, we've chatted a lot, which I have really enjoyed it, all over the place. This is fun. I think it's fun to get together and just have conversations about food. It doesn't have to be strictly about our assignments and I mean, I don't feel like it has to be. I hope that you guys don't feel like it's a waste of your time if we're not talking exactly about the assignments. But we talked about food, and all of that might come in handy. You never know. If you do not like us talking about it, send me a message so I know. I don't want to.
Chef,
But no,
can you-
we
can you-
tried, Chef. We gave you plenty of opportunity and things went in different directions. So yes, this is the fun part because interaction is what I love about food, what I love about teaching, but it's also what I love about this business is interacting with everybody, especially.
Chef, I got a question. Can you tell me to see if it's done already?
Sure. I like it darker,
Okay, thank you.
but maybe flip that other side in. Was one side in on, did you look at the bottom? Look at the bottom. Lift it up and look at the bottom. Yeah, see how it's blonde? Let it go for a little bit more. You want the bottom to be golden brown too.
Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, where do you have it in the oven? What rack?
On medium rack, the
it
small
on-
rack.
Put it on the bottom one now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, just a few more minutes, I think would be good.
What's Chef Nick's acronym? Deep golden brown or
GBD.
there you go.
Golden brown and delicious, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said that a lot.
I don't want to burn it. That's the thing, you know.
He said that a lot.
He's great. Him and
Alright.
Jan. We had them last time.
Juan, Sheree, did you have something?
Yeah, I don't have a hand because I'm on my laptop. So
I see your hand. Your real hand works really well.
so I was just wondering for like when we do the so I think I'm gonna do the gluten-free, and you said that we could do the bread flour instead of the all-purpose.
If you're going to do the gluten-free, you have to get gluten-free flour. It
Oh,
won't say
right.
bread. It won't say any of those things. It'll say gluten-free flour.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, let me grab it right now. Because I said
But the regular,
okay, yeah, it's gluten-free.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Look
There
on
you
the
go.
back of it for me and tell me if it has
Oh, it's-
xanthan gum or guar gum in it.
Oh,
the
yeah,
ingredients.
it got the xanthan gum.
It does
It
already have
does.
it in there. Okay, so you probably won't have to add the additional. In that recipe, there's xanthan gum in it. In the recipe from school.
Right, right,
And that mix already has xanthan gum, so you don't add more.
right. Because I had bought it I have bought some Zan gum. It looks like
Mhm.
this.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I just asked because I would have been adding too much. But my
Yeah,
question was, but when we make the flatbread, you said we don't have to do two. So like, but can I just do like two? Like submit an extra picture? Just because I'm gonna do pizza for my family tonight. And I
Yeah.
don't eat like cheese, but I got a non-dairy, like a Gouda. I think it's called Gouda cheese.
Mm.
It's non-dairy,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was going to do two different because I don't eat what my family eats, but I still cook for them. So I
That's so
just
nice.
gonna
You can top these any way you want. So whatever's going to be work for you and for the family, that's fine. Not a problem.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I have found, are you talking about Daya cheese? Is that the kind you're
No, I
using?
think it's called Gouda. I'm gonna just grab it because I'm probably not. I'm probably hearing it or whatever.
Well, Gouda is a cow milk cheese. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah. So that's a Follow Your Heart. That brand, I like that brand a
oh,
lot. That's a
and
good
it's
that's a
dairy
good brand.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's they have some shredded ones that I've used before too that actually melt, because sometimes the non-dairy cheeses don't melt. And
Yeah.
that Follow Your Heart brand, I've used the shredded versions and they have melted. So I'm not sure about the slices, but hopefully that will melt
Yeah.
for you.
I'm
I
gonna
like
I'm
that.
gonna take it, grade it. I'm gonna just grade it down best as I can, like the whole block, and just grade it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh,
Yeah,
See, I
like,
learned something new.
cut
I
it, cut
didn't
it.
know about the dairy-free stuff. That's awesome.
yeah. I don't eat dairy either, so I know I think I have tried every non-dairy cheese known to man, and I do like that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Because some of them are really not very good, but that one's pretty good. I like it. Well, I can't wait to hear about that one too. You'll have to come talk about your experience with it, because it's always good for us to see how all these things are turning out. Um, so please tell us about it next week
Yes,
on
please.
Steady Hall. That would be good.
We've got another minute or two because we got to hit the hour mark. Anyone else have any questions, problems, answers? Words of wisdom? I'll take all of it or any of it. Cool. Well, this has been fun. We like doing this, as we mentioned. Remember your week 3? I tell you, Chef, I can't remember what day of the week it is, let alone what week it is. Your week 3 late, yeah, I know, but your week 3 late assignment by the end of today, by midnight tonight. And then your week 4, we've got till Tuesday of next week. So keep submitting, doing your knowledge checks. Go back and do those knowledge checks if you haven't done your tries on previous weeks. Chef and I know we'll be refreshing our grade books on Friday tomorrow morning. So if you have gone back and done, it won't drop in the new score until we refresh. So we'll be doing that for you.
Yeah.
I know Chef and I send out fun little things, some Happy Friday things for you this week. So look out for that. Anything else?
Apparently we're going to get a video for
I
Peter.
have to remind me to
So
send.
I'm excited about the video. I get to watch it too.
When I send you this video, I'll send you Peter's video from the TED Talk.
Okay, cool.
Anyone have any last minute things? Chef, you got anything else?
Oh, Launchray, you have another question? I see your finger up. Yeah.
So, no matter either one, the gluten-free or the gluten one, we still gotta let it rest for that 1 hour for both recipes.
I don't think you let you mean for the proof or for the first ferment?
Yeah, for it to double.
The first ferment, you are letting it. Yes, the gluten-free one you let rise longer after you form it than the one for the non-gluten-free one. So in the gluten-free one, I think they have you resting it for an hour.
Cover it.
Maybe they do. I'm trying to remember if they have you resting that after you form it.
I think it was 45 minutes.
No, I meant for the gluten-free one. I can't remember what they had them doing.
Well, I watched the video. I don't remember how. The regular
I think
is 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the, okay, so for the gluten-free one, they're having you ferment the dough for an hour till it doubles in size. Right, okay, that's what I was thinking. And then they're spreading that out on the pan. And then they're just baking it, par baking it. Remember, you're gonna par bake the gluten-free one for about 10 minutes and then take it back out and then top it and then finish your baking. And just so you know that the gluten-free one is wetter, which is why you're par baking, and you might need to bake it a little bit longer. You just have to keep your eye on it and see, because it just has more liquid in it. So
Cool.
yeah.
Great, guys. I'm going to hit the stop on the record. You've been awesome. We will see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. Be safe.